Hey guys, welcome back to Overtakes. This is Misfit.
And I'm Kel.
And we're here to talk about Stage 3 playoffs. So, we are recording this in the middle of the matches on Saturday, which we wanted to wait until the Friday matches were done, because that was where we were going to figure out pretty much what the playoff scenario is going to be. Now, there's a slim possibility, very slim, that if Philadelphia 4-0s the Valiant, which probably is not going to happen. The Valiant are too good for that to happen. Mm-hmm. We would have to have a playoff game between the Gladiators and the Fusion, because they would be tied in map differential, which that would be insane. But if that does happen, we'll come back on later and revise this whole thing. But I don't think it's going to happen.
We're just going to do this assuming that the Gladiators make it in, because even then our assumptions... like, everything else is going to be kind of speculation, because we don't know who the Boston Uprising are going to play or pick to play in the first match.
Yeah, so let's go over the possibilities here. So Boston could play... let's go with the hardest scenario first for Boston. Boston versus New York.
Yeah. If they choose to just be like, we're going to take on the best right away just to get it done, get it out.
Yeah, because they did really well against the Gladiators and the Valiant this week when they played them. So I wouldn't even put it past them to go for New York and say, all right, we want the easier match later.
Right. And then just let the Los Angeles teams battle it out. Which honestly, I feel like this is best case scenario. I would love to see this.
Yeah, that would be so awesome. Battle of LA and then New York, Boston, then going into a final where it's going to be good no matter what.
Right.
I think there's some scenarios, though, that would be less of an entertaining match. I think New York versus the Gladiators would not be a good show.
No. Yeah, I think New York would just destroy them.
Yeah, I think right now the Valiant and New York would be a better matchup in a final, which I don't even know how good that would go.
I really feel like Boston is probably going to try to avoid the Valiant, because I feel like if they're either going to go for the very hardest matchup or they're going to go for the easiest matchup. Yeah. So I feel like they're either going to go New York or they're going to go the Gladiators.
Based on how they played the Gladiators yesterday, the matchup for them is way better.
Yes, agreed. I could definitely see them just being like, we're going to take the Gladiators right now. Because they probably, actually, if you also think about it, they probably don't want to take the risk of losing out at least on the second place prize, so they probably will go with the Gladiators to start. $25,000.
That's nothing to sneeze at.
Exactly.
Well, I could see that. It's also if they think they're good, they might say we're going for the 100,000 anyway. So let's get rid of New York and then just have an easy ride for $100,000.
This is true.
I mean, it depends on how you look at it.
There's a few different possibilities they could go with. I'm very interested to see how they do this. Now, as far as matchups go, I feel like, Boston could absolutely destroy the Gladiators. But let's go with... because, I mean, we literally just saw that yesterday, so I feel like we kind of have a good idea of how that's going to go.
Yeah.
But let's go with, like, the possibility of Boston playing New York. Because either way, I really feel like these two are going to end up meeting at some point. Yeah,
whether it's now or whether it's at the very end of the season.
Exactly.
Towards, getting in the semis and things like that towards the end of the full season playoffs.
Well, I mean, no, just in this playoff scenario. I feel like almost inevitably Boston is going to end up playing New York.
Yeah, that's your inevitable scenario. There would have to be a big upset for that not to happen.
Right.
I mean, the Valiant are good and the Gladiators are good, but they're not on those two teams' level right now. I mean...
they really are.
It'll be fun, and it's going to be fun to see, because, I mean, you never know what can happen. I mean, we saw Philadelphia somehow get into the final last time when they really had no business being in there.
Right.
I mean, they beat London, so, I mean, it's a possibility that Boston or New York could lose to one of these teams. I don't see it, but... I did say that last time, too. I said, well, I don't see London losing, but the off chance that they do.
But I don't know. I really feel like it's definitely an inevitability, but...
yeah. But New York and Boston, I mean, we can break that down a little bit, because that...
yeah.
I mean, that's the probability. You're going to see it at some point, like you said, either in the first round or in the end.
And with New York, I don't know. Like, it's really hard to pick who comes out of that match, honestly.
Yeah.
Because New York is just, consistently been one of, if not the best, one of the best teams in the league. And, pretty much has been the best team in the league. But Boston has been playing so well.
I know, that's the thing. And, Boston barely beat them, too, in the regular season. That was probably one of the best matches we've had all year.
I think the one thing that New York can do to exploit Boston is they need to minimize what Stryker can do, and then they need to basically completely shut out mistakes.
Yeah.
Either shut him out or force him to be the one to beat you.
Yeah, they have to force him into the like what Libero did at the end of last stage.
Yes.
They have to force him to play like that. And it's a lot.
I just don't see him rising up to that and making him and just put all the pressure on him to win.
Yeah, because
I think is probably New York's best shot.
It is, but also too, the hero pool that he has, it's different. Like with Tracer, you can take over by just destroying the back line and sneaking around and doing kind of crazy shit.
Right.
But he's playing like Pharah and Widow and Genji, where you're out in the open a lot. Mm-hmm. And you're like you're vulnerable. And that's why I think they get rid of it. If they take out Stryker, who is just a monster and just destroys supports, 1v1s every Tracer in the league to dust. If you, like you said, if you leave that up to mistakes, this hero pool, it doesn't play to something that's like a hard carry. That's why when Libero did that last time, I was amazed.
Right.
He was doing it with Pharah and Widow, or even when Carpe does that. Mm-hmm. When he did that to get there, that's, they shut down Snillo, and when they were running Carpe even on Tracer a little bit, but they shut down the Tracer.
And I really feel like that's what New York needs to do, is they just need to completely shut down Stryker.
Yeah.
And just do not let him be a factor at all, or at least minimize how much of a factor he is. Yeah,
exactly. Because their tanks are probably better than New York than Boston's. Mm-hmm. And you got Jonak and Arc.
Well, because that's what I was about to get to next. On the flip side, what Boston needs to do absolutely to stop New York is they have to shut down the Jonak and Arc show. Yeah,
they do. They have to Stryker, and even if mistakes, you put him on Genji. Or whoever you put him on, even if you put him on Sombra, because you can run him on a lot of maps on Sombra. We don't know the map pool yet, but they're running her on the last patch, so her strength level is super high.
Exactly.
It's almost worth it to just take care of those two and then let everything else kind of fall where it does, because they do so much damage and control the match so much that they need to go away if you're Boston.
Yeah, exactly. They have to be your number one priority.
Like Semler says sometimes, he says, Arc can't resurrect anyone if you put a bullet in his face.
Right.
Basically, if they're dead, they're not doing what they have to do. And because that's the most frightening part should be for Boston in this game. The tanks are better, but I think Stryker and Sabiobi are on the same level. Libero is a lot better than Mistakes, but I don't think he's going to be as big of a factor if you take out that back line.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Jonak was just feeding him with healing orbs.
Right.
And lately, even. Because I've been watching some of their matches, even against the dumpster fire. If you watch, the majority of his orbs go to either Arc or they go to Libero. Mm-hmm. They played Anato or one of their new sub a lot, but when Jonak was in there, he was just like, "Here, Libero, you're getting healed." So if you get rid of Jonak, you don't have to worry about Libero taking over a game either. New York has just got to neutralize Stryker, and I think that's that
is the key for New York, and I think it's really the only way that they're going to be able to win. Like I don't know if there's any other strategy they could do.
I might want to focus a little bit on Neko, too, because he's been playing really, really well on the Zenyatta. He's not on Jonak's level, but he's more of a utilitarian kind of Zenyatta.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's discording more and healing more than doing the crazy headshots and all that shit.
Right.
But you want to get rid of that too.
But at the same time, I feel like Calyx has just as much of an impact as he does.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, between...
Calyx is almost on the same level as Arc at this point.
I agree.
Playing Mercy.
Right.
He's been playing unbelievable. Both those guys actually have, which is probably why they're 10-0. One of the reasons. But Stryker is the main guy to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially for New York. They got to, like you said, they got to get rid of him, and then you can deal with mistakes.
Right. Exactly.
And the tanks will deal with you. Meko and Mono can handle Gamsu and Note pretty well. But
now, is there any... I mean, this is basically can be said for either of those teams. Like, is there any possibility you see, or should we go into some of the like lesser possibilities, kind of like we did last time with like the Valiant, possibly like what the Valiant need to do to beat Boston, what the Gladiators would need to beat Boston and New York, and vice versa. And
yeah, we can go in a little bit into that.
Teams going into New York as well, like what they'll need to do.
Yeah, I mean, we know what these two teams are going to do to each other.
Right.
So, I mean, that matchup everybody has seen a couple times. Right. It's going to go 5 if the Valiant and the Gladiators play each other. And it's basically the tanks dominating the match. And honestly, whether Surefour and Hydration and Asher can outduel soon Bunny and Agilities.
Yeah. Agreed. If Surefour, I really feel like he is going to be the X factor for the Gladiators, because you already know you're going to get a phenomenal top-notch performance from Fissure.
Yeah.
Same
Fissure
with
can hold his own.
Right, and both of their tanks, honestly.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it's really going to come down to how well the Gladiators DPS play, because you're also going to get top-notch
support. I mean, you got Big Goose and Chaz.
Yeah.
That's a great combo. I mean, and the Valiant, theirs are okay. They're sustainable. Yeah. I mean, Kariv is decent, and Custa's been playing really well, actually.
But they really, Custa has been he has been that's probably been one of the most underrated acquisitions in the entire league.
Because I thought Unko was way better than him.
Yeah.
Apparently, it was just the scenery.
Right.
Somehow they came into this whole thing, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, because it also moved Kariv to, I think, the proper character that he should have been playing, and that's
Zen.
That's Zen, exactly. Like his ability to heal is top notch, but his damage output is incredible too. So it's like it almost just seems like a natural fit for him to be on that. But when you had Unko, like you had to have him on Zen.
Yeah, and you're just wasting Kariv on Mercy.
Exactly.
I mean, that was a smart move that they got him.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I mean, we know what we're going to get with these two. So let's say Gladiators Boston.
Yeah.
So we saw that a couple days ago. Didn't go well for the Gladiators.
It did not. But what can they learn from that? Obviously, they need to minimize what Stryker does as well.
Yeah.
And honestly, there was a few moments in that game where Surefour was taking over, and he was just looking like an absolute monster.
Yeah, he was.
And he needs to play like that. I really think that is what it's going to come down to for the Gladiators, is like, no matter what they do, they need Surefour to just be popping off, or they need all their DPS, no matter which way they're going.
What they really need is
hydration to play really well.
Asher really needs to.
Asher, yeah.
Playing on the Tracer. Asher needs to minimize Stryker's insanity.
Effectiveness, yeah.
Yeah, effectiveness, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
He's not going to play better than Stryker. If he does, that would shock me.
Right.
But he's got to minimize his effectiveness, like you said.
Yeah, he needs to minimize his effectiveness, and then also, he needs to just, he needs to up his game enough that, like, there's not a large divide, and then whoever else is playing with Asher, whether it's Surefour or Hydration, most likely Surefour, they need to be right there to to help them out, because this matchup really seems like it's going to come down to DPS.
I favor Boston because of Striker. Surefour is better. Surefour, Hydration, and Asher all kind of are better than Mistakes. Mm-hmm. But they're not better. Like, Asher's not better than Striker because he's mostly doing the Tracer. And Surefour, who subs in on Tracer for him, I guess, sometimes.
Yeah.
He's obviously not as good as Striker.
Right.
But Hydration could be the big key, depending on the maps.
Like, Boston has an advantage in the DPS simply because of Striker.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, the Gladiators could be. It just depends on how those guys play and perform. Like, it's really kind of a wild card.
Yeah, I agree with that. Hydration could be big if they have the right map pool. Like if you get that Anubis, Junkertown, those Junkrat Farah kind of map setups. Oasis, that'll be the last one, but I mean,
Nepal. Well,
yeah,
they
Nepal.
They usually do one of those. They
run 5. That's
playoffs. Right. They always run the 5. Yeah.
Yeah, they run the 5.
They just do straight up best of 5. So they usually throw one of the King of the Hills first. It's within the first 2 or 3.
Yeah. So you could have Nepal, Oasis, or what was the other? Oh, Ilios. So that could be interesting. But I mean, you're gonna.
They usually try to do. I think they try to do escort, or the last time it was 2 escort maps because you had Gibraltar and 66.
That's right. Yeah,
they do that again. It would be Junkertown and 66.
I don't know who I'd like in that. Better Widowmaker goes to the Gladiators, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, Junkertown, you're not. Well, I guess you rely on Widow some on Junkertown, not as much as you would on 66. I guess they're both kind of about the same. That'll be funky. Maybe they'll do 2 hybrid if they're rotating that through 4 stages.
That is very possible.
I don't think they're going to do 2 CP maps because that would be weird.
Yeah, no, because there's too much of a possibility of there
double
being
tie.
Yeah, they don't want that.
I mean, it's very hard to tie on a escort or a hybrid unless you have no one take a point.
Right.
On the hybrid. But yeah, okay, let's so what would New York have to do what do you think against the Gladiators? Besides New York things.
Yeah, I mean basically I would be really I really don't know what the
that would be a 3-1
against New York. That would be
honestly I would say that would be a 3-1. That would be not a pretty match.
No, it would just be
or 3-2 however it works with the 5. I mean 3-2 at the most. 4-1.
Really, the only team that I feel like could stop New York is Boston.
Boston, the Valiant would give them a battle, I think.
Yeah,
a little bit better one than the Gladiators.
Yeah, but I still think they wouldn't.
But because their DPS can't match up against them, and neither can their supports. Because Libero and Sabiobi and Pine, I mean, if you have two King of the Hill maps in there, that means you see a lot of Pine.
Yeah. Or
if you have 2 escort maps, more Pine. Mm-hmm. That means more Widowmaker death for everybody.
Yeah, right, exactly. And that's the thing that New York does is they just have that ability to just create absolute matchup nightmares.
Yeah, and you're going, well, the Valiant give a match. Their tanks match up with Meko and Mono. Oh, but their supports are nowhere near Jonak and Arc.
Right.
Or their DPS can't match up with Libero and Sabiobi and Pine.
Right.
And the only team that can give them a fit is Boston. And that's because... Yeah. And it's not that... Boston's not flashy about it. They're just consistently good and smart about how they play.
Exactly.
I mean, on paper... Teams that you're looking at that could beat New York would be like London because they got Bird Ring and Prophet.
Right.
You're not going, Mistakes and Striker are the matchup nightmare for the fucking NYXL. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Right.
But see, that's another thing with New York that kind of sometimes in this little when you're doing all these matches, the fatigue factor they can take out Sabiobi and put in Pine, or take in Libero and put in Pine on certain maps. Mm-hmm. So people are getting a rest, and they'll put in Janus in a couple of maps. So, Meko and Mono aren't playing every damn match. And Sabio, you know what I mean? I think that's going to hurt Boston. Like, they can take out Note and put in Kalios. Because you're playing 2 matches back to back. Or one. Well, obviously, if you lose, you're not. But we're going on the assumption that it's going to end up being Boston and New York in the final, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, it's really the only thing I can
unless they do like the WWE call out.
Right.
It's like The Rock standing at the ring doing that come here fucking hand to Stone Cold. That would be the only way, but which is what we want to see, because that's going to be fun. You'd have the Battle of LA, and then you'd have New York and Boston. But there could be a little fatigue for them. I mean, I saw Space actually tweeted something. If I ever complain about having to play 3 matches in a day, shoot me. Something like that. Basically, we're playing a fucking video game. Shut up.
Right.
This is what we're getting paid to do. This is not that hard.
Right.
Well, you know what I mean. He was kind of like going in that, like,
well,
I live for this shit.
It would be the same as a baseball player complaining about playing a doubleheader.
Yeah. A catcher I can understand.
Yeah.
That's about it. If you're standing in left field, maybe because you need to take a nap because you're bored. Other than that, I mean, it's pretty much is going to end up New York and Boston, like we were saying. If they get to the finals of Gladiators, since we've been bouncing back and forth, that's the only factor that I think that would keep them in matches against Boston or New York.
Yeah, absolutely. It all comes down to Fissure.
Yeah, and if they hard focus him, Bishu has a hard time, because when they've lost, it's because Fissure is they've just like, fuck this, go after that guy. Let's take him out of the picture first and deal with the rest of the. So, all right, we gonna make a prediction on this, or what are we gonna do?
Yeah, let's do a prediction. So I'm really thinking that Boston's just gonna see. They're probably gonna see their opportunity, and they're just gonna be like, we don't even want to take the risk. We know we can beat New York, but we want to make sure that we're in that second thing. We want to make sure that we're in that championship spot. So I feel like they end up picking the Gladiators, playing New York, but I think New York beats them.
I do too. I think New York's going to win their second stage in a row.
I agree.
I think the matches, depending on where if they might go Valiant. If they go Valiant, the Boston, that one would be iffy. I don't think they're going to go there. I think they're going to take the Gladiators. But if they went Valiant, that would scare me more of the Boston-New York final than if they went Gladiators. But I'm still with you on that. They take the Gladiators, and New York will take care of their business.
Right, and I really feel like it's gonna go to 5. It's gonna come down to that last map, and I feel like it's gonna be like a saving win from either Saviobi or Pine Libro, or somebody,
Libro or whoever,
possibly Libro. Jonak.
Now I'm gonna throw this out there before we end this. Jonak gets a little weird sometimes in these big games.
Yeah. This is
he
true.
gets a little tight.
Yeah.
Biffs ults and does all kinds of weird shit, but he's still going to kill somebody when it matters.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still going to go with New York.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to throw that out there because that does scare me a little bit. Because he's young and he's never been in this before. The other guys have been in tournaments and stuff. I mean, they pulled him off a Korean ladder.
Right.
Still want to know how that fucking happened.
But I mean, at the same point, like, he's been with the team the whole time.
Yeah, he's been through. This will be his third one.
Like, I feel like he's just getting more and more comfortable being that cold-blooded killer that we know he is.
Like, sometimes I wonder if his eyes roll in the back of his head when he right-clicks. Right. Like the Undertaker. This is like someone out in the crowd holding an urn up. Someone needs to do that. We
need to make that the new meme.
Yeah.
Especially if he goes off tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah. Jonak the Undertaker. Well, we already had Effect 316. Anyway, so we're gonna take New York, guys, in this whole So tomorrow, all right, guys. So that's gonna do it. Don't forget, tomorrow we're gonna be on Discord. We will be setting up for the playoff games. We'll do like a watch party. You guys can come in. We'll talk about the matches and all that kind of good stuff. Don't forget to hit a like and subscribe. Hit that high noon pick'em. In the regular season, though, outside of the high noon pick'em, me and Keller tied. So you caught me the other day because I picked the fucking Mayhem and the Valiant. Idiot that I am. Anyway, so we will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night, and get ready for those playoff matches. We'll talk to you later.
Catch you guys on the next one. Later.
Later.